right, more of the same this week, guys. For one more week, this is week 3 of 14. So you'll see more adjustments starting next week. A few little adjustments that I'm going to talk about this week, and also I've got some really good stuff to, or what I think is really good stuff to go over, kind of from what I'm seeing from some of the athletes in my classes and some from the videos. From some of the videos that I'm seeing online from people that I know are on the program. One big thing that I wanted to touch base on is that I'm not, from some of the stuff that I'm seeing, I'm not completely sure that you guys are, reading over the whole program in detail, and then also looking into the description portion of the YouTube videos, or always looking at the YouTube videos. I can understand that some of the exercises may seem self-explanatory. Maybe you've done them a lot before, and you think you don't need to look at the video or read the description. But there's a decent chance that we may be looking for something a little bit different than maybe what you were taught before, or we just have a different perspective. So make sure you know what we're looking for exactly, and we're going to also explain why we want it to be done in that certain way. So don't just think that especially if there's a video attached, it's attached for a reason. Even if it seems like it's a kind of a waste of time for it to be attached, then I would say, especially if it seems like it's a waste of time, then go ahead and look at it. Make sure that you're doing it correctly. If there's any information along with that you can read, please do so. Again, just as usual, you'll get much more out of the program. For the squats this week, one little adjustment or one little addition that we're putting in is some lighter weight tempo squats between some of your heavier working sets. So it's going to say at 10.10, and that means 10 seconds down and 10-second pause in the bottom. So make sure you're positioned where you can see a clock, or you have your phone in front of you, or somebody's counting for you. Don't just guess. 10 seconds is a long time. It's easy to get ahead of yourself, so we want 10 seconds on the way down and 10-second pause in the bottom. Now, pretty important on that, or very important on that, especially from the back rack position, a lot of times it's harder to maintain quality in that deep position while you're pausing. If you struggle mobility-wise or position-wise with the back squat, then what you can do on that 10-10 tempo, especially if you're rounding in the bottom quite a bit or losing too much quality, you're dipping too far forward, then you can do light front squats instead, or even goblet or kettlebell front squats, and you can do those with or without elevation. That can be your kind of your mobility between sets, and then go back to regular back squats as you alternate through. So right now it says, for example, back squat is going to be a set of 3 at 81%. The next set's going to be 60% for 1 rep at 10-10 tempo, and then back to 81% for a set of 3, and you're just alternating through. So if you're going to change that up, then instead of the back squat at 60% for 1 rep at 10-10, it'll be front squat, or it'll be kettlebell front squat. Now I want to show you a couple different versions of kettlebell front squat, and with or without elevation. Now if you're using one kettlebell, what I like to see is you hold it upside down with the handle pointing this way. And once you get your hands all the way up underneath there, your palms all the way underneath there, where your wrists are touching the handle. From there, you're going to put it kind of right on the clavicle in a position to where it's resting right on the top of your chest. And you're going to try to keep your elbows touching the handle as much as possible, and also your elbows in. What that's going to do, guys, it's going to help you, first of all, create the position that we want, and lock in the way that we want you to. Ideally in the standing position, and then maintain that throughout the entire way down. So get on your elevation if you need to, get the kettlebell in position, get your wrist in position, elbows back where we want them. Go ahead and rest your chin down on the kettlebell. Again, a lot of times when someone is using this kettlebell, it's easy for them to lift their head up a whole lot, and if you're struggling in the squat, usually where people struggle in the squat the most is rounding in the bottom, and the chin coming up can contribute to that. So we're going to use this opportunity to rest the chin, or even force the chin down on the kettlebell, and we're going to do our 10-second descent. Of course, that's not 10 seconds, but you're going to do the 10-second descent, 10-second hold in the bottom, and then come up, or without elevation, right? Another version that I really, really like, and this one sometimes is a little bit easier depending on the person, but you're gonna do a double kettlebell front squat. So kettlebell in the hands like this, you're gonna clench your fingers together, so make sure you have appropriate kettlebells for that. And then same thing, you're gonna keep your elbows in and back against the body. And once again, elbows touching your fingers with or without elevation. Okay? And whether you're using those squats there or not, that's a really good drill for you, and if you're a coach, for some of your athletes to do to really help their squat. And possibly may be the only squat that certain people need to be doing for a while to really help those changes. One place, one place you can use that on a regular basis is in the new squat sequence, warm-up sequence that's in the program, where you do 10 elevated heel air squats, 30-second support hold, another 10 elevated heel air squats. Right there on that second set of 10 elevated heel air squats, go ahead and grab and add a kettlebell to it, and then add the kettlebell to it on the last set of 10 with no elevation. So you see that sequence where you go through, you're starting with elevation, getting that support squat hold in, and then ending with regular squats with no elevation. That's a great place to add that kettlebell in, add that weight. It'll kind of force you into a better position and go a long way for you. Just wanted to remind you real quick of that tempo. I just have a note here to remind you one more time. 10-10 is 10 seconds down, 10-second pause in the bottom. I know that's a long time, but you'll definitely get a lot of benefit from that. On the front squats later in the week, going to be doing pretty much the exact same thing that we have been for the last couple weeks, and you're going to be doing that support squat hold between sets. And I want to remind you and show you what I want on that support squat hold. And of course, I don't have support in front of me, or like in the video, those boxes on the side. So just envision that. But you can do these with elevation too if you need to, especially to accomplish the exaggeration that I want. So if you normally squat or have to squat with your toes out, then go ahead and get on elevation or without elevation and go with your feet straight. Try to get to where you can turn them in a little bit and just exaggerate that position a little bit, right? With support. Again, I'm not asking you to do your regular squats this way. I'm just asking you to exaggerate against what you're used to doing and get yourself in a little bit of a different position. Another thing is that there's a lot of people that are more flexible and comfortable, say, in this position, so with their feet more narrow, maybe slightly turned out or turned out a lot, whatever that position is, then again, exaggerate against it. So if you're getting in that support squat hold, go ahead and set your feet straight and wide and hold on to something to support. If your feet are normally here, say you're wide, you have to have a wider stance because of your mobility and turned out a little bit more, then go ahead and put your feet more narrow and straight. And again, you can do that with or without elevation and hold on to that. And that's just something, not simple, but it's something that you can do if you know you struggle in your squat, but you're not really sure why. It's something that will go a long way and help you a lot, kind of no matter what your issue is. So ideally, I think you're doing that in combination with the one or two pieces of mobility that mean the most for you. But if you're not sure what that is, then you can't go wrong with just exaggerating your foot position and getting holding in that bottom position with the best quality that you can with that support and that kind of thing. Snatch deadlift this week, we're going into toe heel lift. And so week 1 we just did snatch deadlift from the block. Week 2 we did snatch deadlift plus into shrug and a heel lift, or plus shrug heel lift. And this week we're doing snatch deadlift into shrug heel lift. And let me just show you the differences there. So week 1 we have snatch grip deadlift from the block, so that's touching the top of the knee, and we just did snatch deadlift. Keeping the bar close, brushing the thigh up, holding briefly, brushing back down, getting to the same position. Week 2, snatch deadlift plus, meaning hold here, straight shrug, heel lift. Week 3, that's this week, we're now putting it together, still moving slow, still touching the top of the kneecap, still brushing up, into, right? So no pause. So again, even though we're going into, there's no stop. Make sure that you're really taking your time. Keep moving slowly, even though that weight's, you're going to have a decent load on there. Don't worry about moving fast. Work your position, work your bar closest, all that stuff that we're looking for. Front quarter squat, you're using straps. You've been using straps for the past couple weeks. This week you have an opportunity to go up as heavy as possible as long as you're maintaining quality. What I'm going to recommend on that for safety purposes is, one, if you don't have jerk blocks to do those off of, as shown in the video, if you're just doing them out of a regular rack, probably go ahead and do them without straps, at least the heavier sets. That way you're a little bit safer. Sometimes, obviously, with the straps, especially using certain types of straps, you can get locked into there, and if you don't have something just right here to drop it on so you can get out of it a little bit safer, then go ahead and go without. If you're not completely comfortable with those straps on, if it's a pretty aggressive stretch for you, especially in combination without using blocks, again with those heavier sets, go ahead and do them without the straps, and we'll over time ease into that a little bit better. One last thing, keep up the recovery section at the end of each workout and on some of the days off on the 4-day week program and the 3-day week program. And keep that up if you can. If it's something that you're skipping, try to get in a routine of doing that. This is just kind of maybe my monthly reminder. I kind of try to bring it up at least every now and then to remind you guys that it's there if you've gotten used to overlooking it. But it's going to help you make it through the program easier. It's going to help give you some insurance to get through the program and stay healthy. It's going to give you a chance to get better results out of the program. So if you can make time for that, if you're not already, do so. Quite honestly, I've said this before, even if you have to cut out a little bit of the other parts of the program, cut out a set or two here and there if you just don't have time to get it in, so you can make that time to get that recovery in. Even if you're doing it at home at night, I recommend, if that's something that you're consistent with, and if you can do that, do it. But for a lot of people, if you say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and go home and do it later at home, what's most likely going to happen? You're not going to do it at home unless it's already in your routine. So again, guys, week number 3 of 14, hopefully you guys are enjoying it, having fun with it. It's important to have fun with it. I know it's a lot of hard work, but let's keep it up, and I'll see you next week for week 4 of 14. Take care, guys.